Hi, welcome to Comic Talk. I'm Joshua.
And I'm Drew.
And this is our monthly review for, was it July? July. So we're going to talk about our favorites and least favorites from July.
Finger guns. Alright, so as usual we have 6 tops and an appropriate number of bottoms. So the first one we're going to talk about is Vision number 9. Number 9 by King Walter and Belair, of course. So this is the issue where we get a lot of Victor, who's relatively new to the storyline. We learn he has like some pretty deep ties to the characters, and just the fact that he's back is cool anyway, because we haven't seen him, or we personally haven't seen him since like second series of Runaways.
Right. Just Tom King writing Victor Mancha is pretty cool alone.
Yeah.
And we get this really kind of deep and compelling thing with him and basically like robot drug abuse, which was
the vibranium,
really cool. Not something I expected, and also
not at all. Yeah.
It also had a little bit different of a feel, I thought, in this issue than the previous, which was an interesting kind of breakup a little bit. Like, I mean, it wasn't way different than the previous 8, but
just by nature of having Victor be the centerpiece, it has to have a different feel, because the Vision family has a very distinct manner of like speaking and problem solving and everything. Like, they're like in their own little world. So to have a more normal character, even though he is an android too, is exactly what you said. Yeah, and
it was good to break up that second act turn to third act with an outside perspective. I thought it was a really clever writing technique that he employed here. And even though this isn't my favorite like standalone issue of the series, in fact, it's one of my less favorite in a standalone-y kind of way.
I'd put it in the middle.
Yeah, if you're following the whole series, though, this issue was really great as a piece to the linear puzzle, I suppose.
And I suppose what it really comes down to, for me at least, is that, well, there was nothing extraordinary about this issue. Like, the series as a whole has been so good, and this is enough of an example of that, I mean, we have to put it in the top, because on its worst day, it's better than most of the other shit we read.
Right, so. Exactly. This is a pinnacle at Marvel. I really think this is going to be one of those series in 10 years that when you talk about this time period, people are going to say, you know, what should I read from just the big 2 in general from this time period? This is going to be one of the obvious go-tos, unless he completely blows the ending.
Yeah, in the next 2 issues.
And even if he does, it's been so good up to here. I have a hard time imagining this won't be like one of the all-time greats of this era already. It's that good.
I mean, it is for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's quite good. Since we're talking about Tom King, let's go ahead and talk about another series that he has on our list here. This is Sheriff of Babylon, King and Gorad's. So this one focused a lot on Nasir, right? And we also had this interesting situation happening with the phone call that's just pages and pages of her talking on the phone and building this tension.
One side of the conversation too.
Right, yeah. Masterfully done. Like the writing in terms of the dialogue and the way he builds the tension all the way through this issue, and then never, like, he kind of loosens like the immediate tension, but then he jumps straight to this other really dark situation, and it just, like, all the way through this is just dark and tense, and just why this series is so great. It's
really a good illustration of what I love about Tom King, and that's that he's so masterful with what he doesn't tell you. Like, he knows how to tell one side of a story in such a way that it, like, physically fucking pains you to not know the other side. Like, he's just like a master at it. Like, I've never read anybody that's able to do that in the same way that he is.
Yeah, well, and he trusts his artists a lot.
Yeah, he does.
A lot of what gets told through the art, which is rare in a lot of comics, especially things, I mean, maybe not Vertigo, but, you know, a lot of the bigger titles, a whole lot of it gets told that doesn't need to, and it's one of the things that I think we both find ourselves complaining about quite a bit.
It's irritating.
You know, you don't need to tell me that, because I'm reading a comic. There's already images on the page that are expressing.
I can fucking see it right here.
It's being expressed already. Yeah, precisely. And he does a really great job of just letting the artist tell
his side of the story,
his part of the story, without, trampling all over the guy and telling it for him. And I think that's, along with what you said, what really makes his stuff stand out.
Definitely. Next we have Archie, number 9, by Mark Waid and Veronica Fish. This is the issue where Ronnie tries to live in Archie's world, basically. Like, they start spending time at his house because they're not allowed at hers, and shit goes awry for various reasons. She's obviously accustomed to a different lifestyle than he is. But the thing that I think we both really loved about this is just how human and sincere they made her part of the story. Mm-hmm. Because normally, this is not a new plot by any means, but normally when it's done, they don't give adequate credit to both sides. It's like, it's very easy to just say that this person is wrong and an asshole and stuck up and whatever, but he doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. He actually makes it, very personable and sincere.
So I think the real triumph with Archie and Mark Waid's run since they did this reboot is that it's just not the one note you would expect from Archie. When you think Archie, you think of the Reader's Digest books, at the grocery store, and it's all very simple, one-note characters. Mm-hmm. And each character is just sort of a simple stereotype. Veronica's the stuck-up bitch. And
sure.
Betty's the greaser girl. And, Jughead's kind of the idiot loser. But in this Archie, he's rounded everybody out and made them very full characters. Mm-hmm. So you don't just say, oh, Veronica's a bitch, because she is a bitch, but there's reasons. And although he doesn't turn it into this deep character study of why she's a bitch, he just makes sure to round it out, and in the process of telling the funny story, give everybody a fair shot. And it's got to be really difficult to juggle that mixture of just telling a funny Archie story,
slapstick and whatnot,
and not just stereotyping everybody into a simple little box that's easy to understand, because he's not doing that. He's not using the stereotypes to make the jokes. Mm-hmm. He almost uses he almost breaks the stereotype to make the joke a lot of times, which is a much subtler and more impressive way to write a story.
Yeah, the dude's a master. There's not much else to say about it. Mark Waid is fucking good, and Veronica Fish, let's not forget her. Her sense of visual humor is just incredible.
Yeah, it's really great. We were worried to some degree. We had seen a little bit of Fish work before, and we're like, she might be able to do it. But we were worried when Staples left. When Staples leaves, I don't know if we're going to have the same thing. And I think Fish is now maybe even more important than Staples was on this. She's incredible on this.
Yeah, it's great.
It's perfect for her. All right, well, let's talk about Jupiter's Legacy 2, issue 2 by Millar and Quietly.
Let's.
So this was the issue with them breaking out the crazy Spanish dude. He's Spanish, right? He's got to be Spanish. Nobody dresses like that if they're not Spanish. That's. So they break him out, and he does a bunch of crazy mind mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
And then we have the B story of Brendan getting all pissed off, and he's going to go take it out on the Chinese, right?
Yeah. Which is weird, because the B story actually has way more consequence than the A story.
Right.
Which we liked about it, and then also the mind fuckery that the guy does is the most Mark Millar thing that we've seen in the series thus far, which you'd think would be kind of annoying, but it's not at all. It was hilarious, and it was kind of that, aha, I knew that was fucking going to come up at some point.
Right, at some point there was going to be some fucking wacky dude that is just too much.
Yeah.
But it works great, just like you said, confining that to one character in a large ensemble is really quite great.
Yeah. It's in context, oddly enough.
Yeah, and visually, the work that Quietly did here, I think Quietly's a master. He's one of my favorite artists, and I feel like this really shows off what he's so good at, and that's taking these incredible things and making them feel like they could exist, or giving them some sort of form and substance to them instead of just making it feel like a flat comic book page.
Right.
Which is really easy to do. We're going to talk about something else later that was pretty wild and crazy, but just was maybe too much and just looked cartoony, right? And it ended up on our bottoms. So,
sure.
But Quietly takes these really crazy concepts and
just makes them feel so natural.
Boils them down into something real natural feeling. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So to be fair, we didn't get our Ant-Man this month. But with that in mind, the funniest book by far this month was The Fix, number 4. So this one's based very heavily on Mac, which is the first issue in the series thus far to do that. Normally we just get the other guy for, the whole fucking time. But now he's got this plotline going on with Pretzels the dog, who absolutely hates him because he knows that he's a dirty son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And more great appearances by their boss, who's like super left Stalin. Yeah. It's a great fucking series.
Yeah, and this was something I didn't expect going in, and when I saw that it was going to be focused on Mac, I was worried. I was like, well, we were just getting revved up with the other guy. I don't know anything about this character. Is it going to have the same appeal? But he nails it. This character is as interesting and as fun and different enough from I don't remember the other guy's name at the moment because it's been a month and a half since we read one with him. But he's considerably different as a character, and now I'm excited to see him come back together, now knowing a little bit more about each of them, right?
I think what I enjoyed most about him is that where the other guy is very, he tries to justify why he's an asshole constantly. He's like, yeah, anybody would do this terrible fucking thing that I just did. Mac just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever, fucking I'm gonna do this. So that's the way it is.
That's just it.
Yeah.
There's also this new character that was awesome on the plane that was hilarious, and he comes in, and we're gonna see more of him, I'm sure.
Yeah, the boss.
Right, and he also manages with that character to sort of defy a lot of stereotypes, but still be intriguing in his own way. Like, we have all these characters, and nobody's a stereotype yet. Like, he's still giving us characters that defy stereotypes.
Yeah, this dude is so subtly terrifying.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how distinct all these characters are. I mean, it continues to amaze me.
Yeah, and this also rides a really weird line between, really goofy, almost slapstick style humor and really dark, evil, just underbelly of humanity kind of stuff. It's a weird mixture. It's like a crime, slapstick crime, gritty noir. It's impossible to describe. I don't know of anything else quite like it.
Yeah, I don't know what adjectives I would fix to this other than funny.
Yeah, it's very funny. Yeah. All right, for our last official top issue for the month, we're going to talk about Moon Knight number 4. This is Lemire, Smallwood, and Belair. This is the issue where everything really gets just super weird, I think. It just kind of floats all over the place, and they're out of the deal, and you just don't know where it's going. And
it's hard to say if any of this shit actually happened. It probably didn't.
Right.
I mean, like we said when we reviewed it, there's no way that her diner was just fucking sitting out there,
right.
Yeah, and she just walks in and puts on an apron and fucking, there's nobody else there.
Yeah, it's really odd. And, to be honest, it's not incredibly well written. It's not like a masterpiece in terms of dialogue or story arc or anything.
It's not overly literary.
Right. It's pretty simple superhero story, but it's just weird, right? And just weird things happen. And actually, the next issue of this gets even weirder, but we just read that one, so we'll go back and talk about it later. But this was in that weird spot where it's transitioning from inside to outside, and you would think maybe things would start getting clearer, but that doesn't happen. It just gets stranger, right? And mostly, can we agree that it's really the art that pushes this one up into the top?
Definitely.
Right? The art is just fantastic. It's this great mixture of I guess what you would call sketchy and gritty, but also just a lot of really, really clever layout and design choices.
Yeah, the layout is really the standout, I think, as far as the book in general. Like,
Right.
it's consistently interesting.
Yeah.
Who does that? I mean, you know, usually you get a page, maybe 2 pages out of a whole book. Not every fucking page, every fucking book.
Every page, the layout seems so reasoned, so thought out. It's you can tell that Smallwood never sat down and drew out, you know, I'll do a 9 panel, I'll do a 6, I'll do a 3. Like, he's thrown all of that out the window here, and more, it seems, looked at the dialogue and the story and then decided how to depict the tone of that through the paneling, which is really, like, pretty incredible. It's really cool stuff.
Who does that?
Yeah.
Who else does that?
I haven't seen paneling that I liked this much since, like, stuff from 30 years ago, you know, like Saga of the Swamp Thing paneling. This paneling is what makes this book amazing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you could make an argument for a lot of, especially like New 52 Flash and stuff like that. A lot of the times what kept me reading that was just that the paneling was so cool.
Right, or J.H. Williams' Batwoman. There's been some really cool stuff,
But even again with that stuff, you know, the cool paneling's more to just be like, you know, look how awesome this is.
Yeah,
a
lot of times it's just
like,
flashy.
Self-gratifying, flashy, Whereas this is, like you said, very thoughtful.
Right.
And purposeful.
And a lot of times there's not much in the paneling. It's not complicated or really amazing paneling. It's paneling used to tell a story. It's framing the imagery in a way that moves you through the story in a way that mirrors the tone. It's incredible. It's so different than a lot of, well, most everything else that it's hard to describe in a video without showing.
Sure.
You know, but that's why you need to go read it, I think.
Yeah. It's comic, dude. It's cheap. Just go buy it.
Yeah, go get it. All right, so before we drop into our, bottom of the list stuff, let's talk about sort of an interesting phenomenon here. This is Millar World Annual 2016, and the reason we're talking about this is it had one story that we both agree belongs in our top picks for the month.
Easily.
And that's the American Jesus story by Cliff Bumgardner and Steve Beach. It's called Undeath. It's it's 5 pages. But this 5 pages alone makes us want to at least mention this.
It's worth the cost of the book.
We decided the $3 for this book is worth that 5-page story. The rest of this would probably go in our bottoms.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Yeah, you could...
I mean, even given like the 5-page format, I feel like anybody could have done better than this. Really, it blows my mind that he's supposedly had like so many submissions, for each of these things, and like those are the ones that he fucking picked.
Yeah.
Like, what was everything else? It must have been pretty fucking bad because I didn't gain anything from any of those stories.
Right. If you dig like old school Hellblazer, that kind of stuff, or just creepy horror in general, like old school horror, and you don't mind paying $3 for 5 pages, go pick this up. You can skip all the rest of the book and just go to the Undeath story for American Jesus. Okay, so now on to our bottoms. This is a little bit awkward or painful or something. It's probably going to irritate a lot of people, but
I don't know if our viewers necessarily.
I don't know. I don't
think they'll care.
I think this stuff in general has been pretty popular, so I'm not sure what it is about us. I guess we're just pricks. But
that has to be
okay,
it.
so our first choice for bottoms is Superman. 2 and 3 both came out because this comes out every 2 weeks. I kind of liked issue number 2 as just a fun superhero romp. For what it was, I thought it was pretty good.
Sure.
Issue 3, once we got Eradicator, got stupid. We both agreed. I
think we even got one after that was even worse.
Yeah, we did.
So,
yeah, and we sort of just gave up at that point. There was the whole thing that got really bad. So these were middling, not like let's drop it bad, but then the thing that came in August was so bad that we're done with it, right?
Yeah. You take it from like a solid 6.5 to maybe like a 4.
Right.
Yeah.
So enough said, really. Superman is gone, right? Was there anything in particular that made us drop it other than what I've mentioned?
It's just not as good as the other shit we read.
Yeah, it's just sort of straightforward, cliche kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And having it every 2 weeks, like this month is like so heavy.
Right.
And it's like, what are we putting ourselves through all this shit just to read these bad fucking books?
Right, 40 pages of mediocre.
Yeah.
You know?
And then fucking Snickers ad right in the middle that just takes you completely out of the fucking story.
Right. Just not worth it. And that brings us to another one, Superman Action Comics.
Oh, this is the one where the Snickers ad.
This was the Snickers ad one. I think that one probably had it too, but it wasn't bad because it didn't match the story that was going on.
Yeah.
And this is $9.59 and $9.60, which again is kind of silly.
It's like 2 and 3.
Yeah, you're not fooling anybody. Man, this is just so cliche, and it's, oh, guess what? Superman fights Doomsday again, right?
Lex Luthor's there.
And yeah, it's just...
There's a Clark Kent, but he's not Superman.
Yeah, I can see why... I can see why like a 15-year-old would like this. I understand why somebody who has read very little in terms of comics and not watched a whole lot of comic book movies or cartoons could see this and go, oh, that was fun. Mm-hmm. I guess it's fun. It's just boring. It doesn't seem like... Jurgens doesn't have any sort of...
reason to write this book.
Give a shit about this. It's just... The same thing with Superman, really, with Tomasi and Gleason, which is sad because I like Tomasi and Gleason. It just feels like they're getting paid to write books, so they're going to write them. All right, Superman,
Yeah.
Just whatever. The art is just standard, nothing special, so we're going to drop that one too, right?
We're all out of Supermans.
Yeah, no more Superman stuff.
They're all gone.
I have been recommended that maybe we should try New Superman, because it's supposed to be more character-driven. So maybe like when that hits trade, we'll check it out.
Maybe.
And see what we think of it. We tend to be more character-driven readers, so that might be better. Sure. So last on the list, and this is really weird to me that we would be doing this, but I think we both sort of talked about this maybe happening. This is Batman number 2 and number 3. Now, to be fair, I think you're enjoying this a little more than me. I'm choosing this specifically to put on our bottoms, right? Honestly, although this is written a little bit better in terms of dialogue, I think the pacing is all over the place, just like with the other Rebirth stuff, and I think the story is just as uninteresting and just uncompelling in general as the rest of the Rebirth stuff I've read, which has been almost all of it so far. I feel the same way about this as I do everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I like it better than Snyder's Batman.
Yeah, but that's not that hard for me.
Right. Yeah, I enjoy King's attention to detail more in this, but I also don't really feel like it's a King book.
Right. It doesn't feel like Tom King, except for, like you said, the attention to detail and the quality of character voice, right? Like the character voice is good. It feels right in that regards.
Yeah, it's well written for something like mandated.
Right. And I even like the basic premise of, I feel like what he's trying to get at here is, what is it about Batman that makes him good for Gotham, and why can't like a Superman type character just show up and like do better than him, right? Because I mean, he's just a dude, so you would think, people say, well, why doesn't Superman just fly over to Gotham and help solve the problems? And I think that's what he's trying to get at here, is that like somebody squeaky clean and too powerful is bad because they're too easily manipulated, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can just get a hold of them and manipulate them, then everything's fucked because they can just wreak havoc. Whereas Batman, even if you manipulate him, he's just one dude, right?
Right.
So you can't get that much out of him unless he was really wanting to do it. So I get the idea, I just don't feel like it's being pulled off that well.
No, yeah, it feels terribly rushed.
Yeah.
Like, again, same complaint where everything that we think should have like a good issue or two of exploration gets, a couple panels.
Right. And it's really, like we said, when we saw they were taking Tom King off of like third string C-rate characters and putting him on Batman, it's like, well, that's either going to give us a really great Batman or a really watered down Tom King. And I think we're getting
a really watered down Tom King.
Very watered down Tom King. We're getting Tom King underneath a bunch of editorial mandates and decisions, and he has to run everything by Scott Snyder and by the DC editorial team for the Batman stuff. You know, it's just, for me, I'm not liking it any more than I was liking Superman in Action Comics, but you're a little more into it, and you're a little bit more of a Batman diehard than I am, so are we going to bear through a few more and see where this goes?
I think we could give it 2 more.
Okay. Well, we'll see how we feel about it at the end of August.
I'm right on the fence, but again, like, if I didn't like Batman as a character, I'd probably drop it, but because it's Tom King and because it's Batman, like, I have to think that there's a small chance he's just, you know, kind of getting into it now, and he's got some shit to sort out.
Well,
we'll see where it goes.
I have heard that he said around issue 9 he's going to start getting into the Joker stuff and the 3 Jokers. And I would like to see a Tom King Joker story. I think he's a really great choice to write the Joker because he likes to write sort of complicated characters that aren't, you know, very surface level. So I'd like to see his take on the Joker. So maybe just the promise of here pretty soon I'm going to get to the Joker is maybe enough for me to stick around and give Tom King credit that maybe he... Also, as we get further away from Rebirth, I like to imagine that they're going to loosen the reins a little bit, right? Because it always starts very, you know, corporate-driven mandates. This is how it's going to be, and maybe as we push out a few more months, he can do a little more of what he wants. Yeah,
I definitely believe that. And not to mention that as shitty as it is to make this argument, like, even if the Joker stuff's bad, we'll be able to sell it for more than we bought it for.
That's probably true. Yeah, it's probably true.
Might as well. Yeah, it's a shitty reason to read something, but, you know, at least we're not going to lose anything by doing it.
So. Right. So let's talk last then. That's all of our bottom titles. Let's talk just for a minute about if there's anything coming up. Is there anything coming up? Or is there anything we... Like, okay, Kill or Be Killed, we missed that one. It was sold out and we couldn't get a hold of it. So we're going to put it on the list, I assume, and try to get in on issue 2. And we'll find a way to read issue 1, I think. Is that what the plan is?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is being added. We got 3 spots that are open.
Actually 6.
And technically it's like...
4.
It's 4 spots because it's, you know, twice a month. So I think Kill or Be Killed's an obvious one to add.
I don't know when Velvet's coming back, but I just finished reading the first arc, which is like 15 fucking issues, and that was really good. What's coming up? Because I know we're not going to get Young Animal until next month.
Right, October.
September. Is there any new Rebirth stuff coming out this month?
Blue Beetle's coming out.
Blue Beetle? Yeah. Remember, we talked about checking that out.
Yeah, we've got space. We could try it. And I think it's only a monthly.
Yeah.
So we can give Blue Beetle a try. I'm really enjoying Flintstones.
Yeah, I still need to read that.
And that's Mark Russell. We loved Prez. Mm-hmm. By the way... The second series of Prez is not happening. It got canceled. He's doing an election special, and that's it. But we have the Flintstones.
That was like the only good thing at fucking DC. God damn it.
I know. But we have the Flintstones now. I know you haven't read it yet, so you don't have an opinion on it. I think it's as good as Prez. It's different because it's set like ridiculous past, right, instead of future. But it's got the exact same appeal for me. Mm-hmm. And maybe even a little bit more appeal to me. I think I like Flintstones better than I like Prez. So I would like for us to pick up Flintstones, and you can pick it up any issue kind of book too. So
sure.
I think next month we will probably do Flintstones.
I'm down.
Cool. And that'll kind of make up for the loss of Prez, which is bullshit. But that's DC. You know, anything good doesn't sell and doesn't get bought. Yeah. And doesn't continue.
That video game they had, Infinite Crisis, what was that, for like 4 fucking months before they pulled the plug on that?
Yeah, they really don't have much room for anything that isn't garbage. And then, there's the Young Animal stuff coming up, but that's not until October and September. We will definitely be reading Doom Patrol because I love Doom Patrol, and it's Gerard Way, who I think has done some pretty cool stuff. He seems like a cool guy.
Yeah.
Even if he was in My Chemical Romance, which Admittedly, I thought it was pretty good back in the day.
Yeah, I never liked it. That's terrible.
You know,
it's just like a watered down version of other shit that I listen to.
Yeah, that's fair.
Take the most cliche elements from these bands and just make them into one band, and then put on makeup.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Yeah. But all in all, I think he's pretty cool with his work. So we'll definitely read that. We might try out a couple more of the Young Animal things just to sort of replace the DC that we've disliked. I think that's
fair.
Yeah. So
sure.
Other than that, I think we're good. This has been Comic Talk, and bye.
Later.